Hello and welcome to the second video in my Hyper Project series. This one is actually going to be about the clutch. One of the problems I did have with this truck was the clutch the engine was revving its guts out before the clutch actually engaged. Now the first thing you do before you actually take the engine out or anything is make sure that the drivetrain is free. Sometimes you'll find the brake might be sticking on, or there might be some resistance in the drivetrain, which can also make this fault occur, but I've already checked. I've actually got the running chassis down on the floor here and the drivetrain's totally free, so the problem seems to be in with the clutch. So good thing is a few years back I did get these clutch shoes out of a job lot of parts I got, and I've never used them, so there was a reason why I got them all those years ago, was to fix this car. So those are going to be slung into it and see if that actually makes any difference to the performance of the car. I actually haven't taken this off yet. I thought I would do the video and see what's the matter, but definitely shouldn't be revving as high as it is before the clutch engages. So we shall start off. Now first thing, I've just got a few simple tools. I've got my multi-tool here, which is just basically, you know, a pair of pliers, knives and stuff. Always handy to have one of those. I always carry one of them around. You never know when you might need it, and the number of times I've needed this for weird situations and it's got us out with some sticky messes is quite amazing actually. So always carry one of these around, flat-headed screwdriver, cross one if you need it or won't need it for one of them, and also an Allen key for the actual front bolt of this. So first off, we're going to just quickly take this off. Now this, I've already loosened this, because you normally have to crack these off. You have to hold something. You have to hold the flywheel tight with either a pair of mole grips or something. I like mole grips, just make sure the teeth are actually covered with some soft material. You'll damage the flywheel. But yeah, I'll just move that over there and take the clutch bell off. Another reason why the clutch bell or the clutch could be slipping might also be the fact that the bearings within the clutch bell are worn. Now these ones have actually are pretty free, because you can just check that by spinning the clutch bell on the shaft and seeing if it spins freely, and if it does, it normally means that the bearings are fine. And then we come to our clutch shoes here, which actually do look worn a bit. They're not badly worn, but seeing as I've got the clutch bell off and I've got the new clutch shoes there, I might as well replace them. So to take clutch, the easiest way I find to do it, because these are not going to be going back into anything, is to just basically jimmy a screwdriver in between the clutch shoes and the flywheel, I should say, and just ease them up. Now there's a spring inside here which actually rests against the this little bolt here. It's got a cutout in, and you literally just shimmy them off the bolt. It might take a bit of going over. Let's just lift it up and tick it up, and it should just click out like that. And there's one clutch shoe, and as you can see, there's a little spring inside here which presses up against the little groove in this nut here. All these clutches are centrifugal, all nitro cars are centrifugal clutches, so the engine will get to a certain speed, these will spring out against the inside of this clutch bell, and your car basically engages the drive and you're away. There's two types. These are the 3-shoe type. Smaller engines such as the 12s and stuff that are normally on 10 scale touring cars will have a 2-shoe setup with a spring wrapped around, and it basically same thing, but instead of having the spring basically pushing against the centre of the shaft, it's just basically holding it in, and the spring moves as the centrifugal force pushes it out, so it's basically just wrapped around the clutch shoes. Next one to go. Okay, so now with all the clutch shoes off, we can see that it's basically just a flywheel with 3 pegs on the outside. That's basically all this is. And the job now is getting the new clutch shoes onto the clutch pins sticking out of the flywheel, which is a fair job because the springs have to be in tension, so that means you have to basically force them in. Now I'm hoping this will solve my clutch slipping problem. It can't be anything else because the engine's running freely, the drivetrain's running freely, and everything else is running freely, so I can't really see what else it could be. So there's me 3 new clutch shoes. These are just, I think the Teflon, are they? Yeah, Teflon shoes. You can get aluminium ones, but to be honest, Teflon ones are better because you want the more resistance the better, the friction value the better, and aluminium is harder than Teflon, so that means the aluminium's going to slip more than these ones. So if you're ever going to get them, get proper Teflon clutch shoes. And we'll get the springs out. As we can see, they're just basically split springs, that's all they are, nothing really too much going on there. So I'll just open these up. And stick these down here. I could have used the springs in the old clutch shoes and just left these in, but over time the springs actually do start to degrade and the memory goes basically, and they don't spring back as they should, but not as much with these ones. So the first thing you got to do, you'll see one of the pins is more bent than the other, or one of the sides of the springs. As you can see, that one's got a curve, that one's straight. The curved bit of the spring actually goes on top of the clutch shoe, like that. We can't actually see it on that one because it's black against black, but if we look at this one, if the camera focuses, we can see the spring goes over the top of the clutch shoe, well, exactly the same as that one. Now the job is while keeping this in place, we need to slip this on here onto the actual peg, and we need to get this little spring here, oops-a-daisy, as I kick the camera, we need to get this little spring here bent around over the top of the actual bolt, which is going to be one of the bugger of tasks to do. Now what I do normally is get a flat-headed screwdriver and just push the hell out of it while pushing it down, and then it should find its way on just like that. Okay, so I've got one shoe on. Now once you've got it done, what you should do is just check basically it springs back. As you can see, this one does. It's a bit of a faff getting it all when shoes are in. One thing I have noticed, these ones are a lot smaller than the ones I've just put on, and these ones seem to stick out a lot more, so I'm hoping this has solved my clutch slipping problem. So basically these have less to go before they engage the clutch, whereas these would have had more travel to go through before the clutch actually engaged the clutch belt actually put drive into the transmission. So another thing is, when you start to put them back together, is do not neglect the way you put all the clutch bell and the bearings back in. Now in between these two bearings there was a little washer here, if I can pick it up, and that went down into here. Just give it a shake just to get in. So there's a washer that went between that bearing and that one, like that. Then stick this washer on here, washer bearing in there, and then this one here goes onto the shaft of there, and that basically just gives it a little bit of separation from the front of the clutch shoes, so there's no rubbing the clutch shoes on the front face, which could cause the car to move when you don't want it to. So if we just slip that back onto here, it should go onto there, like so. Just squeeze that bearing onto there, stick these front this front screw on here, and then we should be done, and that's the clutch all over and done with. Like I say, a lot of people with the idea with nitro cars, and nitro cars is one of the reasons why I got into the engineering, just because at a young age you kind of learned how to fix things yourself, because if you took them to the RC shop, they would charge you an absolute fortune and make sure that's tight in there. It should, it depends which way the engine's going, but a bit of Loctite just to nip it up in there would be ideal. But yeah, all done and sorted. That's how you basically change a clutch in one of these. And like I said before, if you're unsure if the bearings are worn in the clutch bell, if you just give it a quick spin and let it run, you'll hear the bearings first, because they'll be crunching a bit when you feel them. But if these bearings are fine by the way they're running freely there, so there's no problem with them. So the next stage is to put this back in the car and see if it actually runs and actually goes anywhere. So I'll quickly switch the camera off and we'll start it up and see if we get it.